Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 460 chainsaw. The customer complaint, was that it didn't run right or something like that. I rebuilt the carburetor on this one, and during the test run, I noticed that it wasn't oiling. So I'll probably put a video out there of the first half of this repair. But this is going to be a video on trying to discover why his oiler system doesn't work. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the bar and chain off, and I want to look at the bar and make sure that the oil feed hole in the bar isn't plugged out. And in this case, that hole looked just fine. If oil was being pumped out of the saw, it should be going into that hole in the bar and feeding the chain. Well, you can see that it's not oiling. There's a little bit of oil movement there, but nothing's being pumped out that hole. So when I looked in a tank, I could see stuff floating in the oil. So I dumped the oil out, and there was still a lot of residue left in the tank. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump some fuel in here and swish it around and try and rinse that. I mean, just a ton of wood chips in there. And I'm sure what happened was that the intake or the pickup inside the oil tank, it just plugged up with wood chips. Or maybe even one that got past that screen and into the hose, or maybe blocking the pump. So this thing's just a mess. I don't want to dump from the yellow funnel back into the tank, because in the bottom of the yellow funnel right now is a lot of wood debris from the first time I rinsed the tank out. So here's at least our second attempt to clean it. Problem with these tanks is that the way the plastic is molded, there's a big lip around the top edge where the cap goes. And stuff goes in pretty easy, but it doesn't come out very well. So what I'm going to do, see, our funnel is empty. What are we going to do? We're going to get a light set up in here so I can see what's going on. And then I'm going to take a transfer pump. I'm going to kind of vacuum the tank out a little bit. This particular pump is a Snap-on brand, and I've added a fuel filter in front of the pump to kind of protect it from schmutz. So the truth of the matter is, you can only suck up so much of that stuff. I'm going to try and blow some of it, dry the tank a little bit, or blow some of it out of there. Now the air that's rushing out of that tank hole, look at all the wood that's still in that rag. I got a cleaner rag here that just fell on the floor. We're going to do this one more time, and I mean, there was just a ton of wood in here. I don't understand. You got to be a little bit more careful about when you pull the cap off of here to fill it with oil. My air hose is all hung up around a bench. Take a look at this rag when I pull it off of here. There's still a bunch of crap in it. But we got it pretty clean right now. I think we're going to leave it like that. So I'll top it back off with oil, and then we'll move forward investigating the oil lines in the pump to make sure there's no other debris in here. Alright, where's our cap? There we go. I noticed that the cap is, it doesn't have anything that holds it on there. A retainer. Maybe he sets his cap down in a sawdust or something like that. I don't know. We're going to rattle this clutch off of here and make sure the switch is in the off position. Comes out pretty easy. That impact has got plenty of power for knocking them clutches off of there. It doesn't take much with that tool. Clutch is getting a little worn. But we're not here looking for clutch problems. Drum is starting to get worn. Let's clean this mess up a little bit. Alright, first thing I want to do is remove the worm gear. And inspecting the threads on the worm gear and rolling the oil pump, that stuff all looks normal. No damage, no problems. I'm really thinking this was just some kind of a blockage from all that debris that was in there. Let's take the chain guide plate off of here. There's a single screw that holds it in place. And that exposes our pump and some schmutz. Looked like I was using my pant leg for a rag there, huh? So this is the discharge hose from the pump. You take a close look when I blow through here. You could see some oil. I don't know if I saw debris, but I saw oil blow through it. So that's clear. On this side of the pump where the discharge hose was, I don't see any debris on that discharge hole. Let's get this pump out of here. On the intake side of the pump, that's what I'm examining now.
They don't have that screw.
And getting interrupted. I'm not complaining about the interruptions. I'm just pointing it out because it will come into play here in a little bit. So right now I got an oil tank that's full and the oil is just kind of seeping out the hole. And normally it would run out pretty good. So right here's our tank vent. That was full of dirt. You couldn't even see that there's a vent there. I'm cleaning that off. And then I'm going to put a little bit of air there. And when I did that, it pressurized the tank and it blew oil through that feed line. And I really think that's where my problem was. I think there was a piece of debris in that line restricting the movement of oil or totally blocking it. But we'll confirm that in a little bit. So I thought the pump looked fine. We're bolting it back in place. We cleaned the tank vent. Now the tank can breathe, and maybe that was all our problem was a plugged tank vent. So let's get this guide plate back on here. Yeah, what am I looking for? Probably the screw for that guide plate. I know some of you are probably screaming at the computer right now. And that's good. That means you've done this before, you know what's going on, you're paying attention.
Scat to the front counter, please. Scat to the front counter.
Gripes.
Let me know down in the comments if you caught it or not.
I don't know.
So I'm going to use some grease to grease the worm gear and the clutch bearing.
Where was it?
Now I was pulled away. I had to go to the front counter. Came back. Couldn't remember where I left off, apparently. So here I actually greased the bearing. I'm going to clean the grease out of the inside of the clutch drum, where the clutch shoes actually ride. Just clean that up a little bit. There was a lot of buildup in there. And then we'll rattle our clutch back on. So you'll notice when I do this, I make sure that the stop switch is engaged and that I've got some rope pulled out on the starter just so I'm not rattling against the starter itself. And it doesn't take much. I mean, once you drop the chain into wood, it's going to tighten up naturally anyway. So now what am I doing? Well, I'm realizing what I forgot. Do you see it yet? Well, let's buzz the clutch off, and the drum, and the bearing, and the worm. Let's go. The worm is kind of a pain in the butt to get off. And the single screw that holds the chain guide plate. Boy, we're digging back into this, aren't we? And then we'll install the discharge hose. Stuff happens, right? I mean, I blame it on getting interrupted, but I don't know. I missed it, I forgot, whatever. Added a few minutes to the repair. So we'll slap this back together, rattle our clutch back on, and then we're going to fire this thing up and see if it oils. And if it does, then that's all I'm going to have for you on the Husky 460 that wouldn't oil. Thanks for watching. Later.